Hey, what's up, good people? Choppadong here, lead editor of content at dfsarmy.com, one-stop shopping, all things daily fantasy sports. And I'm going to try and blow through this really, really quick and make it short. I have no idea if this is the PGA information anybody wants. I'm not the guru. That is Taco DFS and DFS Up North, or Josh inside DFS Army, as well as many other members that know far more than I do in terms of DFS golf. Now, I may know real golf, real life, but I don't know DFS golf all that well. I mean, I know enough to think I do and be dangerous, but that's that's what all of us, right? So I do blend numbers, I do create my own stats, I do get a little goofy from time to time. Baseball is where I've done it most. If you've followed me for a long time, first of all, thank you. Second of all, if you want to, hit the like and subscribe button down there and get notifications sent to your phone when I drop these types of videos. But I've come up with something in golf that was brought up by Taco the other night when we were talking about tiers and projections and where to find leverage inside the tier. So if you've followed me in baseball, you know that I've created metrics like what is it, WOBISO and OBISO and things like the K-score. I like to combine metrics that create sliding scales. You know, K-score is an easy one in baseball to kind of bring to an analogy here, in that a high strikeout pitcher facing a high strikeout team is clearly an ideal matchup or an ideal situation. Doesn't always pan out, but it's clearly an ideal situation. However, there's whole bunches of shades of gray in between there. You may end up with a medium strikeout pitcher and a high strikeout team, or a low strikeout pitcher and a high strikeout team, or a high strikeout pitcher and a low strikeout team. And which one has the most potential? Well, you can take those percentages and add them up, create your own number. And I think we use 500. I'd have to, as baseball comes back, I'll get back in the swing of things, but I think we use 500. 24.6% would be 246. And then say a strikeout percentage of 27.8 would be 278. So you take 246, add it to 278, you get like 520 something. And anything over 500 is a good matchup. But you end up with some really weird pitchers that you're looking at, or you wouldn't think that, you know, Rick Porcello would be a better pitcher than a Clayton Kershaw in a given matchup, and he's kind of not. But for a tournament, the upside is maybe there that you might exploit something like that and end up on a lower owned pitcher that is still in a good matchup that flies completely under the radar because nobody's looking at the slate the way you're looking at it. And that's what I hope I've kind of created here for tiers, but I've never tested this. I don't know what's going on. Talking to Taco yesterday showed me that if you take the guy's inherent odds to win as, you know, 12 to 1, 20 to 1, 30 to 1, whatever, and then take his projected ownership, 13%, 18%, 15%, whatever, you can really find leverage inside a tier. You know, if you look here at this top tier, pretty even with odds to win, but the ownership should slide to a Rory McIlroy, right? So you might say, well, I'm going to take more McIlroy because there's more leverage here. They've all got about the same odds to win, but this guy's going to be lower owned. So if he wins, then I have leverage over the entire field because I will only be competing with 13% of lineups as opposed to, you know, 18% of lineups. It makes it easier for me to get deep into that GPP money when I have combinations of lower owned players. Now I don't need to go bonkers and find six, you know, guys under 5% or something crazy like that. But I do need to think about ownership and where I might put more emphasis in the players that I select. And this translates into the classic format sometimes as well, because you find somebody that has tremendous leverage in tiers and say, holy cow, this guy's going to have leverage everywhere. So bear that in mind as you look at here, because all I've done is like I do with my other stats, I add these two together. You get a low number here and a high number here versus, you know, a medium number here and a high number here, and one is going to bear out over the other. So if you can turn them into apples to apples comparisons, you can now look inside this tier, and Rory has the leverage. He's got the better combination of best odds to win and lowest ownership. If you have the best odds to win or best odds to place top 20 or whatever number you're looking at, the best odds and lowest ownership, now you're getting somewhere. So and it's not a big leverage spot here. What we're talking about, a scale of 5. They're all in the low, under 30. They're all pretty good. They're all good odds to win, and not too terribly chalky. It's not like DeChambeau's 35% or something. If he was, that would throw this leverage score way off and would very much point towards Rory or Justin Thomas. Now, when you come into the second phase or the second tier, you look again, 17 to 1, 26 to 1, 25 to 1, 19 to 1, and then look at the ownership percentages here, all in the 11 to 13. So it's going to come off of odds, this particular one. And of course, Koepka's out. That's just been announced. Caddy tested positive for COVID, so he gone. But I'm looking at this score here, and you can see there's quite a gap. There's actually a decent gap between Xander, DJ, and then Jon Rahm. So if you're wanting to take the leverage in this spot, you might focus on Jon Rahm. If you take leverage and you focus on leverage, you got to understand the popular plays are popular for a reason. They're good, solid plays. They're oftentimes going to pan out. When you take the leverage angle, you're only trying to get into a smaller herd of people when it works. You're hoping the chalk fails, and then you're trying to get into that smaller grouping of people where it's easier to separate yourself. Now, we all know, big picture, I'm going to beat 100 people more often than I'm going to beat 1,000 people. So if I can narrow my groupings down where I'm only competing with 100 people as opposed to 1,000, I'm going to win more money. Not only am I going to win more money, I don't need to win as often, as top heavy as these contests are. So I can be wrong a lot as long as I am right at least sometimes. And by taking these, Jon Rahm, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, are they really that much different in skill level? Not really. Some are playing better than others, some are better course fit than others, some guys can have a good week, another guy's can have a bad week, whatever. But the fact of the matter is they're all elite golfers. They're not tier 6 guys down here. We would agree that the skill level of a Jon Rahm is way higher than a Ches Reavie or something like that. So we're trying in tiers, we're kind of competing a little bit apples to apples. We're trying to find either the misplaced guy who's in the wrong tier, or we're trying to find the ownership leverage, or the leverage based on the odds to win too. So as we walk through this, the green guys have the leverage, Webb Simpson, at a combination of 19 to 1 odds and 10% ownership in this tier. Now, of course, the bigger the tier, the more spread out ownership is going to be. It's going to be very hard to find a heavy chalk in a tier of 6 players, as opposed to, you know, 3 or whatever, where everybody's sitting at 20 something percent. Down here, if Webb Simpson, 10% owned, at 19 to 1 odds, clearly the best odds in the tier to win, clearly the lowest owner. That's a weird combination. I don't know if that projection is even necessarily accurate. But if I'm going with it, then that gives me a leverage score of 29 versus who's next, 37? Big gap. So I should be putting a ton of weight. If I wanted to balance this out at 6 players, what is that? 15 something percent each. Well, I might go 30, 35, 40% on Webb Simpson, and then let the rest of the ownerships put 5 to 10% on everybody else and let it shake out where it shakes out. But I'm going to want to identify Webb Simpson huge. I also noticed that in this tier, Colin Morikawa and Paul Casey have very high leverage scores. We want low. High leverage score for the tier means that they don't have much leverage at all. So yeah, if Morikawa or Casey wins the tournament, then you ate the chalk and it worked out, and that's great. And it depends on where your leverage is elsewhere. So if you really, really like that player, go for it. Don't let this stop you. But if you're looking for the leverage within the tier itself, these guys shouldn't really factor into that thought process that much. You can take much lighter ownership of them, if any at all. You can even fade them and really hang your balls out there. So in this particular case, if you faded those 2 red players, you'd cut the tier down to only 4 combinations. And those 4 combinations, you could put even weight of 25% on each player and play balanced, or you could put 40% on Webb Simpson and about 15% on Cantlay Answer and Justin Rose, or 5% on Rose and 20% each Cantlay Answer with 40% on Webb Simpson. Those are the kinds of things that you have to determine when you are setting up your optimizers and running multiple lineups. But these are the things you need to be thinking about as a player, because these are the ways you can make a stand, draw a line in the sand, and be correct. And that's what's going to lead you to more money. You may win less often, but it's going to lead you to more money when you do win because you're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into tournaments. You're going to raise your ROI. This is the type of stuff we talk about inside DFS Army all the time. This is the stuff we try to create to point you guys towards those strong solutions, those common sense solutions to teach you fundamentally how to become a better player. This is what the coaching brings to you. This stuff doesn't get published into regular tools that go out on Twitter or anywhere else very often, but they do get talked about inside our VIP chat rooms very often. And that's what you need to be a VIP for. You get to ask the questions back and forth, ask a guy where his head is at, what he's thinking, where he's taking his shots, and then you get to decide for yourself if that's something that you want to pursue or you want to go in your own direction. Totally up to you. Really quickly, Patrick Reed, Sanjay M, Fitzpatrick, Spieth, all okay. Bubba Watson, believe it or not, should be the chalky member of the tier, but in this particular projection, he actually has the highest leverage score, or the best leverage score, because he's also got the lowest odds to win. So the lowest odds to win, coupled with some decent ownership, still means you get more leverage out of this player here than you might if you're playing somebody else. Of course, Ian Poulter definitely is which one of these things does not belong in this particular tier. So we hope that he doesn't win. Ownership wise, you get tremendous leverage, but odds wise, Vegas is telling us that we should focus on these other guys if we're trying to get deep into the tournament or win. Gary Woodland, Finau, Sergio Garcia, and Joaquin Niemann. Joaquin Niemann, with highest ownership in the tier, still has the lowest tier score, the leverage score, because his odds to win are giving more credit. Maybe that's overblown. Maybe that's not. But if you run off of a method like this, more times than not, it should start generating leverage for you. That's the whole idea. Don't do this 1 week and then next week and then say, well, that doesn't work. Let it run for a month or so, maybe even 2 months. That's only 8 times. That's still a very small sample to know if this works or not. But this is something that just makes common sense, in my opinion. It makes logical sense. There may be other things we can add to it, like course fit score or something like that, but we're going to end up with an overall leverage score here that is going to start leading us to the players within these tiers that really should pay off if they hit. That's the big question, if they hit. JT Poston, who would have thought? Everybody's going to be on Damon here. Scheffler's a great spot. Nobody should be on Reeve. A lot of people will be on Keegan Bradley. Mike Kokrak might be the guy left out here, but JT Poston should deliver you, the leverage of this tier. Now, am I going all in on this guy in tier 6? No, tier 6 doesn't usually have a lot of win equity in the tournament anyway. It'd be kind of crazy if they went super deep onto the leaderboard. But if you're going to generate the lower ownership, it's right there. You've got decent odds to win compared to those people in the tier, and you've got the lowest ownership in the tier. Therefore, you've got the lowest leverage score. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully you like this. I can do this every week for us as VIPs if we like it. If you're not a VIP, consider becoming one. DFSArmy.com, coupon code CHOP, CHOP, 20% off discount. I'm telling you right now, prices are going up soon. When prices go up soon, I don't want you sticker shocked. I'd rather see you get in now. We're going to get into an era of sports that is unprecedented. With MLB coming back yesterday, we're going to have golf, NASCAR, MMA, MLB, hockey, basketball, 6 sports all rolling at once. And in late July and August, guess what we start talking about? Football. That is 7 freaking sports going day in, and I haven't mentioned esports, I haven't mentioned some of the other stuff, but that is 7 good-sized sports that are running day in and day out that we cover. And for $40 a month after the coupon code CHOP, $40 a month, it's a friggin' steal. It is an absolute steal. You get all of the tools from the research station to the cheat sheets for every sport, access to coaches in every sport, the domination station that covers every sport. You cannot find that across the industry for that price, believe me. Everything else is going to add-ons, and I'm telling you, our prices are getting ready to change. So, you need to use that coupon code and use that link in the description of the video right now and lock in your pricing because you're grandfathered in. When our prices go up, if you're already a member, yours don't, as long as you never let your subscription lapse. We have people here for under $20 a month that get all of this. Imagine if that was you. This is your last good opportunity to do that. I'm telling you, last opportunity to do that. Because once these prices jump, you can be locked in at what is right now an absolute steal for the coverage you get. Don't let that opportunity pass you by. Hopefully, again, you like this type of content. Like and subscribe to the video. I'll talk to you out on Twitter land. Peace out, homies.